I know when I first started racing, one of my biggest fears was not even the training, but I hope I don't get a flat tire. Does anybody feel like that?
Yeah.
That's like for sure. It's a huge source of anxiety, and in my opinion, an unnecessary source of anxiety, because it's really not that hard to do, right?
Right.
It's not that hard, and all that worrying about it, you could have spent learning how to do it. Now, there are lots of, resources on how to do it that are out there, but I really think that the main thing is to do it, to actually do it. So I'm going to show you how to do it, but then I'm going to have you guys do it yourself. So I did send you in advance a list of what you should have in your saddle bag. Hopefully you've got all that stuff. I do have extra things in case you don't have it today. All right. So in your saddle bag should be an extra tube. I even bring 2, just in case. I like to have 2 in there. Tire levers. There are different kinds of tire levers, and I like the ones that are reinforced with steel. So they're a little bit more durable. These are the ones that are a little bit, plastic, okay, and these break a little easier. So if you're really yanking it. Ideally, we don't use the levers at all, but most of us girls aren't as strong enough to get the tire around with just our hands. So some girls are, some boys are, some aren't, But at any rate, you should have the tire levers, you should have a CO2 dispenser and or mini bike pump. So you can have a mini bike pump or you can have the CO2 dispensers, and we'll go over how to do that. These are 2 different kinds. You can have a patch kit. Most people don't patch their tires, but you can. I have it in just in case, let's say you had 2 spares and you use both of those. Now what? I'm far away. Maybe somebody can come. I'd rather not have to make that call unless I have to. Okay? This isn't in your saddlebag. That's just stuff to have. These are the actual CO2 dispensers. There's 2 different kinds. This is threaded. So you need to know which kind of CO2 dispenser you have. And Lord knows we've got to have some unthreaded in here. The unthreaded has no thread on there. See what I'm saying? So I'll pass these around in case you guys aren't familiar. You can take a look at the 2 different kinds because you want to make sure. Also at the store on the CO2, they're going to have 16 grams and 12 grams. Huh? I just get the 16, So just fill that puppy all the way up. So, bummer, you got a flat. Okay, not the end of the world. Of course, you got a flat on the rear tire. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. The front tire, we never get a flat on the front tire because that's really easy to fix. So if you get a flat, if it's a slow leak, you're going to start to feel like you're going slower and your legs are dead or whatever. Then it'll eventually, be really, really, the feel, especially on the rear tire, you're going to feel like you're really close to the ground. You're going to know you have a flat. If you hit like a big 2x4 or something, there's a chance it'll blow out, okay? And then that'll happen right away. But you still do not need to panic. So on the bike, you still have time. Even let's say if you dropped your chain. If you did drop your chain or you got a flat, there's still time to maintain composure, slow yourself down, and get off the bike. Bummer, I got a flat. Okay, now let's say it's just a little bit flat, like this is still not good enough to ride on. It's just going to get worse. So it's time to change the tire. So I stopped the bike. I'm going to get into the right gear. Now, usually you don't have a flat in the correct gear. It doesn't usually happen. So what I do, and I don't know if you guys realize this, but you can change your gear without being on the bike. So I want to get the chain. This is the chain. This is the derailleur, okay? So I want to get, and this is the cassette. This is your rear cassette. This is the front, okay, your front chain ring. So what I want is to get the chain onto the smallest cassette in the back. So I'm just going to click. Granted, doing it this way did take some practice. But let's say you have a friend with you, even easier, but you can do it alone. Some people turn their bike upside down. I didn't learn that way, so I don't do it that way, but you might see people occasionally doing it upside down. I am totally in the right gear, and that really helps when you have to put your tire back on. So what I'm going to do now, since I have a flat, is I'm going to get it all the way flat. So I'll get all the rest of the air out if it's not already completely flat. And that'll make it a lot easier to get this tire off of the rim. So I need to open up my brakes. So in the back of your bike, you probably have a little lever that's for your brakes. So you can lift that lever up, and that'll make your brakes open up wider so you can get the tire off and on easier. Now I'm going to loosen the skewer here. So the quick release is all the way back. I'm going to open up the quick release, hold on firmly to the end of it, and then just twist this around. So I now have that opened up. A big common mistake is people take the skewer all the way out. That's kind of overkill. That's an extra step you don't need. So leave the skewer in, but it's nice and loose. So now I'm going to lift up my tire, lift up my bike, and then that's it. Okay? And now I'm going to lay it down on the side that doesn't have the derailleur. Okay? I'm going to use a lever, and I usually, just for fun, start like around the nozzle. So this part, I've got to dig this out a bit. And these are newer tires, so I should have brought my other bike so I could look like a superstar. That isn't going to just happen. Sometimes you have to sit down to get enough pressure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lever, and I'm going to lock it down. So see how it's got another, oh man, it's got a hook on the end of it. So that hook, I can hook onto there. All the rest of the air out of this one. Okay. Now, put that down. I'm going to get that under, and I'm going to take this off. Yeah, this is a little bit more like it. Okay. If I needed to, I'd use two, but I didn't really need to on this one. So I want to just take one side. I don't need to take the whole tire off, which I did when I first started. Oh, I had stuff everywhere. You can't even imagine. So now I want to get the tube out. So there's a tube inside of this. This is the tire. This is the tube. Okay, off comes that lock. Now I'm going to pull this tube out. All right. Now the tube is out. I'm going to hold on to it this way, and I have this here. I'm going to put this down, and I'm going to check inside here and see if anything's in here, like a piece of glass. So I even have in my saddlebag a baby pair of tweezers, just in case, because one time I just couldn't get it. But what I did was I stuck a goo wrapper over that part because I couldn't get it out. But you know, anyway, that was advanced bike tire changing. So I go through here, and there might be something in here, a pebble or rock or whatever, but a lot of people skip this step, and it's very important. Let's say I found something. Oh, there was a little piece of glass. I took it out, and it was right here. Okay, so now I have my tube, and I know it was about right here. So then I look. Oh, that's where the hole is, whatever, you know, or maybe I'll see it in here first. So I try to find what's wrong. Look for what's wrong. All right, and now notice this is only half. I didn't take the whole thing off. I only took off the rim or the tire on one side. Got it? Now, I know for a fact that this is okay because it's an okay thing. We're just going to put it back. But otherwise, I would open up a new box, a new tire. It's, you know, and when you get your tires, right, there's no need to spend the extra money for those really long tubes if you don't need those. Just get the ones that fit your tires. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to open up the nozzle, and I'll blow a little air in, or if I have the pump, I can pump it up. So I put a little bit of air in there. I'm not actually going to use this one, but I'm going to use this one. I'll do the same thing, but that was a new tube, so it's really important to do that because they're smashed shut. And if you try to put that in, there's a good chance you'll pinch it. Now, I want to keep this as straight as possible. I don't want any twists in it like that. No, not so good. So get that as straight as you can. And I usually sit down when I do this. So I get into it, all right? And I lay it out like this. And now I'm going to line up to where that nozzle was. I'm going to put that in. Okay, now I'm going to get that straight. That's the hard part, getting that straight. I'm going to line this all up in here, like so. And I'm going to start working it inside of that rim. Inside the rim, inside the rim. I'm doing two at once because as soon as you do one side, then the other part starts to want to pop out. Now I'm going to try to get the tire inside of the rim. So I'm working that with my hands, working that up. I got to make sure that tube is in there. Get that tube all the way in underneath. Now, my hands are not that strong. I'm going to have to use the lever. I don't really like to because it's better if I don't use it. And I'm going to take that curled part. Remember last time, maybe I didn't tell you, I had to get the tire out by sticking the lip of this out so it would come up off of the tube. Now I'm going to put it inside and get the tire to go back in. I don't want to use too much of it because it's a chance of pinch flatting it.
Changing the gears and taking it off?
It takes longer to do the rear because, yeah, you have to get it in the right gear.
Okay.
Okay, now that I got that in, finally, I'm going to check and make sure there's no bleed. That doesn't mean I got a cut. It means that part of the tube is sticking out. And if it is, when I go to inflate the tire, it will pop. And I start at the nozzle because that's where, you know, I can keep track. All right, now I'm going to get my CO2 dispenser. I just use these because they're, I don't know, lighter and whatever, but you can use a canister too. Now they're all a little bit different. This one I squeeze all the way like this, and it's not the quick release. I hope this one's working. All right, this is opened up. Now I should just do a half a click backwards to inflate it. Okay, so now we filled it up, let's say, right? Let's pretend. It's all filled up, and now I've got to put it back onto the bike. Some people fully inflate it after it's on the bike because their tire, when it's fully inflated, is real wide, and sometimes the brakes won't go around it. So oftentimes we'll just fill it up about halfway, make sure it's all good, then put it onto the bike. So if you want to carry some gloves, like surgical stuff, then your hands don't get so dirty. So remember that chain has to go around the cassette, right? So I'm just going to get that to go and line up, all right? And I'm going to push. I might have to move my derailleur, okay? Not in the right gear. You want to try to get it on that small gear, and then this has to be opened up enough so that the bike will plop on. And then I'm going to change that. I usually make the release, quick release, go into the frame so it doesn't get caught on anything. Some people think if it's going straight back, it's more aerodynamic. It's almost there. I just got to get onto that right gear, okay? So that's on. The brake was rubbing a little bit. I'm going to put my brake back on, and I'm ready to go, okay? The other thing that I failed to mention, which is very important, is after you fill it up with CO2, it's only going to make it home, you know, or to the end of the race. By the end of the day, it'll be flat. So I don't want you to think, oh, there's a flat. It's just that the CO2 is a different oxygen level matter So you have to put regular air in it. The CO2 is only going to last so long.